and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and only consider what you know of the news of the day. Dewan Rakyat has passed amendments to the Penal Code that now criminalises all forms of bullying, including cyberbullying. Now, this comes after several fatal bullying cases, most recently at military academies, institutions that often cloak harmful practices under the guise of traditions of discipline and character building. Now, will this new law be enough to tackle bullying across such diverse contexts? Well, joining us now is Associate Professor Dr. Nadzriah Ahmad, who is at UiTM's Faculty of Law, where she is the head of Child Law and Policy. Dr. Nadzriah, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. If I were to focus in on military academies, where you have these really tough disciplining measures, right? And often it's kind of justified as building character, building discipline, you're a military cadet, it goes slightly beyond the ragging that we hear, that has happened previously in other types of public education institutions. Now, taking this specific context, Dr. Nadzriah, where do you see the challenges in addressing the perennial issue of bullying and sometimes the tragic issue that leads to fatal cases of bullying?
All right. Thank you so much, Melisa, for inviting me on this program. I really appreciate it. And coming to your question, actually there are many pressing issues and challenges faced by military academy in particular, especially in preventing the culture of ragging and bullying. And in military academy especially, this particular culture of ragging and bullying is often misinterpreted with military training. Because like for military training, the emphasis or the main focus is basically in building resilience among the cadets, among the military cadets. And, not just building resilience, but building endurance, perseverance in training, building physical build-up, as well as training them to become good military officers with military values. So often these particular virtues are always misinterpreted with bullying and ragging as a form of building character. Okay, so what is pressing is that this particular culture has been normalized, and it is also considered as actually rite of passage among junior military cadets that actually join military academy, and so due to this, it has been accepted, especially by senior military cadets who actually have been victims of bullying themselves. And so therefore, when new junior military cadets join the military academy, they feel that this particular junior need to go through the same rite of passage that they have actually gone through. And juniors basically, one of the challenges is that part of this culture is that they actually accept it and they do not report. And so the culture of silence among the junior military cadets persists. And when this culture of silence persists, it encourages the bully or the senior military cadets to consistently perpetrate this act of bullying against the junior military cadets. For instance, in a heart-wrenching case that was, that the nation knew, that grappled the nation due to the severity of the offense committed by the perpetrators against the deceased who have now passed away. The bullying started actually on the 20th of May 2017. And by the time the victim died, he actually died on the 1st of May 2017. So he endured this period of 10 days, of bullying. And, it wasn't actually formally reported to the military academy. So such incidents have grave consequences, and especially in the case it led to the death of the deceased. And so this culture of normalization, acceptance, and also silence on the part of the junior military cadet is not doing any good in actually preventing this culture of bullying from continuously happening in military academy.
Right.
And on top of it as well, when academy or institution do not take any action, or actions are taken very slowly, these are also not helping as well.
Right. Okay. So let's address the normalization of ragging and bullying in kind of the military training context, right? What duty of care do these institutions have, the military academies have, in terms of addressing this culture? I mean, I'm wondering whether, because we have all these zero tolerance policies, all the more due diligence, more CCTVs, all of that. Would all of that work to address the culture of normalizing bullying?
Well, I think first of all, building the zero tolerance policies, does not happen overnight. And in fact, it needs to engage, or it needs to happen continuously. And there also need to be a persistent engagement with every officer, in the military academy, as well as enforcing and instilling the objectives and aims of establishment of the military academy in all their cadets. I think all cadets, irrespective whether they are junior or senior cadets, they need to be very clear about the aims and objectives of the military academy. And the military academy as well need to set clear boundaries in relation to the relationship between senior and junior, what is permissible and what is not permissible. So I think these clear boundaries need to be explained to the members of military academy, especially the cadets, and also the cadets need to be informed that serious action can be taken against them as well, whether it is by the university, which is governed by the military academy, and also actions can be taken separately, by the Attorney General chambers, depending on the seriousness of the offence. So, basically when we talk about charges that can be leveled against them, of course, at military academy level, for example, due to the recent cases that have happened, the military cadets that perpetrated bully against the junior cadets were expelled from the university. Their services were also terminated, and they are also ordered to pay compensation for the expenses of the study that have been incurred. So this can actually be taken against them at the level of the academy itself. But looking at the seriousness of the offences committed by this bully or by these senior cadets, charges against them can also be leveled, especially under Section 323 of the Penal Code, under Section 324 of the Penal Code as well, depending on the seriousness. And in the case that caused the death of the military cadet, I think 1 to 19 of the accused person, they were charged under Section 330 of the Penal Code, and the remaining, actually, they were punished under Section 302 of the Penal Code that led to death penalty. And the seriousness of the case was recognized by the Court of Appeal when the case was appealed. And the Court of Appeal mentioned that the seriousness of the offence not only shocked the judicial conscience, but it shocked the collective conscience of the society, because of the suffering that the victim had suffered throughout. And it was also cited that this case was the rarest of the rare, and therefore, the Court of Appeal had no hesitation in actually impose the death penalty on the first to six accused that was involved in the case.
Right. I mean, yeah, so that really was such a tragic, I think that really woke us up in terms of the severity of the situation. Can I ask you, when you mentioned the culture of silence, this really permeates, right? Because there are often witnesses, people who see it happening, bystanders that witness cases of bullying. How do you see a culture of active bystanders who intervene? Whose responsibility is that in terms of building that culture? Is it an individual responsibility? Is it collective responsibility? Is it an institutional responsibility? What are your thoughts?
I think it is both. It is both individual and collective responsibility as well. To curb and to prevent the culture of silencing, and to put a stop to this culture of silencing, because due to the recent case of bullying that actually occurred, it was one of the trainers that actually reported about it, not the junior military cadet that suffered from the injury as a cause of the bullying act. So therefore, we could see that the act of reporting made by the military officer is one example where this culture can actually be silent. But I think the military cadets, they all need to realize and understand they are the eyes and ears of the military academy. And often enough from the previous cases that are reported, these incidents usually happen at night, which is after 5 p.m., which is after their learning period that have taken place. So in military academy, after 5 p.m., the students are governed by the military academy regulation. And so when most of the bullying incident happen after 5 p.m. and usually at the wee hours at night in the morning, only the military cadets themselves can be the eyes and ears of the military officers or military academy. So, making them realize that informing or reporting is extremely crucial, that they could actually save life, and that it is actually a duty or obligation on them to do so.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show. That was Associate Professor Dr. Nadzriah Ahmad from UiTM's Faculty of Law, where she's the head of Child Law and Policy there. So we're going to take a quick break here and consider this, but we'll be back with more on this topic. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome back to Consider This. Let's continue our discussion about the recently passed amendments to the Penal Code, which now criminalises bullying, including cyberbullying. Will this be enough to end the scourge of bullying in our institutions, so we no longer have to we no longer see these cases escalate even to some fatal tragedies? Well, joining us now is Dr. Mohamad Naqiuddin Dahamat Azam, who is a senior lecturer at UPM's Faculty of Human Ecology. Dr. Naqi, welcome back on the show. Thank you so much for being here with me online. Now, the last time we spoke, we focused a lot on bullying in schools, and I do want to ask you now, it's terrible that we're still having to address this problem in recent cases, the recent headlines of bullying cases, some even fatal, tragically. So when we think about this issue, why has it been so hard for us to address bullying effectively?
Okay, thank you, Melisa, for the question. I think this is our second time, I think. So, okay, I think this is I think we are going to talk this perhaps 4 years. I think even this is not truly a new issues that suddenly come up of blue, for example. But this is something that have been here, I think, perhaps more than 30 years that we have discussed on this. Okay, but for me, I think one of the biggest challenge is actually about the mentality that we have towards the issues right now, because I think it seems that people are thinking this as uh, not a big issue. I think, yeah, even at one point it might involve some fatality, I would say. But the thing is that it seems like we are not learning from all these tragedies. Okay, because I think I think even currently we have cases that happen in higher learning educations, the institution. Okay, and then I think this is actually one of the trickiest thing is actually to change people mind, especially how actually, because people might see, okay, for example, if you are talking about something that happened due to like military trainings, for example. So I think people will see that, oh, this is actually how we can discipline. So this is how actually we can this is how we want to be in a group together. So this is the tradition that we need to have. So I think with this kind of mentality, this kind of mindset, it seems like, yeah, I don't think like is there are possibility that we are going to see the end point of this discussion. Perhaps we are going to have the third meeting. I'm not sure about the future, but perhaps there are chances that we are going to still talking about these
Right.
issues.
Yeah, Dr. Naki, that's a really good point, because in some of these institutions, and it's not just limited to military institutions, it's usually institutions that have long traditions of discipline, right? Of rigorous character building. So they put their students through, or their cadets through, really rigorous activities, and it's under the guise of building character, building resilience, building discipline. How do we make that difference between, is that a good thing to have, these types of culture, the culture in these institutions? Is that something that we should be thinking about dismantling, no longer carrying this into the future?
Yeah, I think, yeah, of course, in a way that I believe that this is actually true. We need to move towards that. I think, like, we need to make sure that what happens in the future is actually should be the positive situation, where we are talking about things that I believe, for instance, I think like perhaps we can talk about something like creating a safe environment, because we're not talking just about things that happen due to military training, for example. We are still talking about things that happen at school. We're still talking about things that happens at the higher learning institution. We're still talking about even the bullying can happen for the adult as well. So I think, like, of course, we need to move forward. We need to make sure that all these people, we need to protect them, because some people, they are vulnerable to this kind of behavior. The words bullying, yeah.
Can I ask you, how much do you think of this issue stems from institutional culture, and how much is it from individual behavior? And what duty of care does an institution have to address it, if it is in fact an institutional weakness or failing?
Okay, so yeah, because this is actually the two. I would say like the combination of it. Like when we're talking, like some people, they have proneness to this kind of behavior. Okay, yeah, perhaps the anger they have, it can contribute to the bullying, or perhaps because they have this because at one point people are more prone toward the benefits that they can get from that kind of behavior. So on one part, we're dealing with that. On one part, we're dealing about the tradition of the institution. Yeah, of course, it's not just about because at one point, I think, like, especially for the prestige school, they also have their own traditions. Okay, they have things that are passing from seniors to juniors, and the cycle, it happens. Okay, so to deal with all these things, I think this is things like again, I would like to stress again about the safe environment, meaning that we try to put the responsibility to all. It's not just about like the adolescents or all the victims. Okay, we need to put the responsibilities towards the institution on how they can create the safe environment that can be helpful, because safe environment is actually, we give the chance for the victims to say like to express their discomforts, to let people know that they have been harassed or abused. So we need to have this sort of environment in a way that we believe that by having this, we can help them. It much more easier to make sure that this victim can get all the support.
So what would a safe environment entail then? Would it be having policies like zero tolerance against bullying, meaning you create a sense of security that should a victim come out and share their experiences, that there will be decisive action taken? How would you go about creating such a safe environment?
Okay, so I think one part of it is, of course, I agree with the zero tolerance policies, especially because I think like so many people are stressing on that now. I think make sure that zero tolerance policies happen in the school settings, happens in the higher learning institutions, and also perhaps the workplace as well. But one thing is that I do agree that we need to have the policies, all the penal codes to support, just to make sure that all this kind of behavior, this negative behavior, get punished. Okay, so we need to make sure that there are consequences on that. But the thing is that I think with the zero tolerance policy alone, I don't think like I think there should be like something need to be combined with that. Okay, for example, we need to make sure that we need the policies, and at the same time, we need to make sure that there are cultural change in our communities as well.
What kind of cultural change, Dr. Naqi?
Okay, if we talk about, I think in one part of it, we need to make sure that there are no such of thinking of like normalizing that kind of behavior. Okay, so we need to make sure that, like I said previously, I think like we need to make sure that everything need to be, people need to take action on everything, I would say. Okay, so like the policies is good to have that, but in one point, I think we need also to have to change the mindsets of the people. We need to make sure that even the program that we develop can help us to cater this kind of problem.
Right. Okay. So what message would you have then for the school leaders, for the leaders of higher education institutions, and I would also add, not just policymakers, but members of society, because we're not in isolation. We're all part of the same fabric of society. So, how would you like us, to digest this message of changing the mindset of normalizing bullying or bullying behaviors? Yeah,
I think it's quite simple. I think the first thing, because we're talking about like the institutional leaders, the student, the families, I think all of them needs to be aware. They need to understand about what kind of bullying is, and then how they can identify that one, and they should have knowledge to deal with this kind of behavior. And then one more important thing is that all of these people, they need to be together to address these issues, because like I say, like we are talking about the same thing like over and over. So I think it's quite, I think people need to pay attention, need to focus on this thing, and most importantly, I think community need to play their role as well, especially to make sure that the safe environment can be implemented, the policies can be what we call well delivered in the society.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Naqi, for being on the show with me again. I appreciate your time. That was Dr. Mohamad, Naqiuddin, Dahamat, Azam from UiTM, and that wraps up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.